50,000 communities. Yeah, for the Asian Pacific Islanders, our data don't reflect that though. I mean, for the census data, that's why the next census is so important. But how many of them are really in the leadership role, and how many of them are really coming out and also helping us? And we heard Commissioner Fritz saying that she had to use like the accent for American accent. Why is that? Because, and I think that, what she said is really resonate for many of us. We trying to fit in, and that's what we need to change. We need to change that. We have to help our community to be able to identify themselves and be true to the identity. And maybe right in the future, there's no more than 5. So for 250,000 people in Oregon, guess what? We have 5 elected officials, 5 Asian elected officials, and we can name them all women, yay, sorry, men next to me in here, that serve and then also take on the leadership. So looking in the room, we look for you to take on some of the leadership roles that is going to make impact for our community. I know I went a little too far from your questions.
Okay, she sparked something for me.
That's leadership.
That's leadership, yes. While my journey was not definitely didn't have some big challenges that the others had, my journey started in Guam and living in a Pacific island of Guam. I was born there. I'm Filipino, but I was born there. And coming to the United States, to the continental United States, even though Guam was US, was such a culture shock for our family. And we struggled so much in Oakland, California, in a very different place. We were in East Bay, and you talk about this being a very white city. Well, Oakland was a very black city. So even just going to school, and so what actually anchored me, I didn't realize that it anchored me, but I discovered later, was there was 2 Filipino ladies that came to our public school, and there were 3 of us that were Filipino, and they taught us the alphabet in Tagalog. They taught us Bahay Kubo, which is a song in Filipino, a folk song, and I learned about my culture at a young age through other Filipino women that in our community or in our circle, there weren't a lot of Filipinos where I was. As I got older, I had other Filipino classmates, and so I started to learn more about my heritage. But there's continues to be these challenges of being Americanized, which is really a soft way of saying racism happening in schools and institutions that we're all trying to tear down and really work through. So I just wanted to add that because that this is my struggle, even though I am born as a US citizen. I did not grow up in the Philippines. I feel like I identify with a lot of Filipino Americans who have been raised here, and that can happen actually for any culture, Chinese American. If you're raised here in the US, you struggle with your identity. You're not really Filipino, you're not really American. You're not really, who are you? It's a challenge, and you don't really, the other thing is we don't really talk about it. We just work through it. We don't talk about that struggle of that mental anguish that it imposes in us. And so that's why leadership is so important, that you all who have overcome this, myself overcoming this, is important to engage with other young millennials, folks who don't connect directly with their heritage.
Can you guys hear me? Thank you for being on our front panel and stuff like that. I really appreciate the story that you've kind of presented and have been very vulnerable. I guess the question that I have as far as like for future leaders and stuff like that, are there any inspiring books that you read to kind of feed your mind to get new ideas? Because some of the some of the qualities of a great leader is to find the necessity, raise the energy, and find clarity to who you want to be, who you want to help. And we also, as leaders, find that abundance to be able to share towards our communities and so forth. So I was just kind of wondering what inspires you through books and leaders, authors, and so forth.
He's gonna make me talk again. For myself, because of time, I'm just gonna say I'm a fan of TEDx, TED Talks, and all of the recordings, because I can very selectively hone in on topics. And there's so many great speakers these days, and I don't have a specific book. I have a playlist. I'm actually listening to my Audible in the car, and I have 3 or 4 books at the same time, and I'm picking through ones that resonate with me just depending on where I am. So for myself, I do think feeding the mind and reading is important. I do that through listening because of my schedule. But I will say this is really important, actually, just in general as a topic, because things are changing so quickly in our society that staying in connected with what people who have overcome listening to their stories. I think the stories is what helps us learn and progress.
I read Golden Leaf. One book I would recommend for you, and that's the book that actually changed my life. And if you go beyond the book, you can actually go to the training itself. It's by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I came from a culture where I was taught to be timid, self-effacing. Here's one example. You give me a compliment. Kilong, you're looking great. And I'm like, no. Right? That's how bad it was. And it got to a point where now you give me a compliment, I say thank you. And I mean it. And I turn it around and I do that. So, future leaders, you want to lead, you gotta be able to know how to win friends. Yeah? So you want to be a politician, you got to know how to win votes. And you're not going to win votes if you don't win friends. Once you get your vote, you get yourself in the office. You're not going to be able to get anything done if you don't know how to influence people. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's the book by Dale Carnegie.
I was not gonna say that book because, but now that he said it, now I remember, because that book is also, I believe he gave it to my husband, and my husband gave it to me. And I would say for me, as much as I love reading, but I feel that become a leader, and what I believe is really identify mentors in your life and have that direct contact. And lately, for the last several years, I felt that it's been very beneficial, and it's been a very blessing for me to be able to have those mentors in my life who I could spend the time with them. But most importantly, it's like them spending the times with me. And just like learn from them directly, listen to them, and then also someone who to talk to. I felt that maybe it's just like I'm getting older, and reading I cannot really remember. I read so many books in school because it was a requirement. We all have to read and graduate in the business administration. For the MBA, there's a lot of the leadership book, but I still recommend that connecting with people directly it is and identify those, because they didn't really spend time to read book, to write a book, but there's their lifetime experience, and also just have that interpersonal connection is so important.
So for me, I'm not a book reader. I'm a local guy. So if I need to find, I Google it. So what's on YouTube? Yeah, Google is the leader. But what I'm doing now is So I've written so many articles in Seattle Times or Oregon in 5 or 6, 7, and Paul always helped me to edit because that's not how they want it. I wish they take my words or sentences, my accented sentences, but they don't. So I have to use Mentor or Breeze to make that happen. That's why it always changes. So if you read my article in different papers or different media, you see different ways of writing because it depends who is available to edit my article. So, but the story is true. That's my original story. So what I'm doing now is I'm so inspired because I wrote a play earlier this year about only a plastic bag. So it got hit. So I'm so inspired to write a movie script now. So I'm hoping it ends up maybe Hollywood or Bollywood, I don't know. But I believe on that. So, so in order to not to replicate or repeat, I'm watching 96 movies just to control the damage. And I'm planning to watch 17 documentaries, not to just repeat whatever. And I watched 2 movies already, and there was one scene I saw the sleepers outside the apartment, so I'm not going to include that. Yeah, so that's how we reflect that. So that's me.
Okay, thank you all. Can we give
Can I say one thing before we leave? So I got U.S. citizenship naturalized in 2013. So since 2014, I have voted every single election. I haven't missed anything. So if I can do it, you can do it too. Right? So now October 18 is the deadline, and October 16, good. 16 deadline, and November 6 is the voting day. So vote early and make it by November 6th. So here is my point. So what happens is people don't vote and complain later. So what I'm asking is, let's fix it now, so that it doesn't put pressure on you, pressure on me, so to do more, to serve more, right? So let's do it and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you all for joining us. We'll go to the next part of the presentation. I think time is coming up. But can we give it one more time for our panelists? Thank you for sharing your personal journey, insights into your leadership role. And so we're very grateful. Thank you.